It took decades, but Star Trek just reveals Ben Sisko's true purpose as an emissary. For decades, Star Trek fans have debated and analyzed the true role of Benjamin Sisko, the stoic and sometimes volatile captain of Deep Space Nine. Introduced in 1993 during the early days of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Sisko was a character who defied the traditional Starfleet mold. Unlike Kirk's charm, Picard's diplomacy, or Janeway's determination, Sisko was human in all its contradictions: angry, passionate, deeply spiritual, and extraordinarily competent. And yet, despite his profound impact on Star Trek's lore, his most significant purpose eluded us. He was more than a Starfleet officer, more than a father, more than a commander. He was an emissary. And only now, decades later, through the lens of Star Trek's evolving mythos, can we fully appreciate the weight and meaning of that role. A captain like no other. From the outset, Sisko was different. When he was assigned to Deep Space Nine, a station orbiting the strategic, but often overlooked, planet Bajor, there was a sense that Starfleet had given him an impossible job. Bajor had recently emerged from a brutal 50-year occupation by the Cardassians. Its people were traumatized, their planet in ruins, and their society struggling to rebuild. Into this context stepped Sisko, a widower wrestling with the death of his wife, with a young son to raise, and with a career at a crossroads. Where other Star Trek captains had the universe to explore, Sisko's canvas was much more confined, but infinitely more complex. Deep Space Nine was a place of politics, religion, and ethical ambiguity. Wars were fought not just with phasers and starships, but with ideology, culture, and faith. Sisko's genius was not in exploring the final frontier, but in navigating the moral and spiritual frontier. And yet, there was always the subtle sense that his presence on Bajor and the station was about something larger than mere governance or military strategy. The prophets and the preamble to destiny. The first clue came early in Sisko's tenure, when he first encountered the Bajoran wormhole, the gateway to the Gamma Quadrant. He was hailed not merely as captain, but as the emissary of the prophets. To the Bajorans, these non-linear beings were gods, timeless and unknowable, residing within the wormhole. To Starfleet and the secular universe, they were scientific anomalies. This duality, god and phenomenon, spiritual guide and Starfleet officer, was central to Sisko's complexity. At first, Sisko resisted the role. He was a man of reason, grounded in the pragmatic training of Starfleet, skeptical of religion and prophecy. Yet the prophet's insistence was undeniable. Time and again, they intervened in ways that saved Bajor, guided Sisko, or even altered the course of interstellar events. It became increasingly clear that Sisko was not just a bystander. He was a participant in a narrative that transcended Starfleet orders and Federation regulations. But why him? Why Sisko, a human, among the countless species in the galaxy? The answer lay in his unique blend of qualities. He was empathetic yet pragmatic, spiritual yet grounded, authoritative yet compassionate. He was, in other words, the perfect bridge between the mundane and the divine, between the material and the spiritual, a living embodiment of the concept of emissary. The long shadow of the Dominion War. Sisko's role as an emissary became most visible during the Dominion War. Here, Star Trek pushed storytelling boundaries, showing a galaxy in turmoil and a captain forced to make impossible choices. Sisko's faith in the prophets guided many decisions that otherwise might have seemed reckless or purely militaristic. One of the most poignant examples is Sisko's decision to temporarily ally with the Cardassians or even manipulate intelligence for strategic advantage. To the casual observer, these moves could be seen as morally ambiguous, even ethically gray. But through the lens of his role as an emissary, a pattern emerges. Sisko's actions were always oriented toward balance, toward the greater cosmic harmony that the prophets valued. Every personal sacrifice, every controversial decision, was not merely a military tactic, but a step in fulfilling a larger spiritual and temporal purpose. And yet, even as he executed these strategies, Sisko's humanity never wavered. He grieved, he loved, he made mistakes. This duality, cosmic duty and human vulnerability, is what elevates Sisko above the archetypal Star Trek captain. He was, Quite literally, a man straddling two universes. One of physical laws, one of metaphysical truths. Lessons in leadership and legacy. Sisko's leadership was a study in contrasts. Unlike Picard, who often intellectualized challenges, or Kirk, who relied on intuition and bravado, Sisko integrated intellect, emotion, and spiritual insight. He understood that leadership was not just about giving orders, but about creating a context in which others could thrive and make ethical decisions. He inspired loyalty not through charisma alone, but through moral clarity and an unwavering commitment to his values. This unique form of leadership mirrors his role as an emissary. In spiritual traditions, an emissary is someone sent not merely to deliver messages, but to embody principles, to enact divine or universal will while remaining fully human. Sisko's ability to navigate interstellar politics, wartime strategy, and personal crises simultaneously reflects this dual mission. He was an emissary not in title alone but in practice. A mediator, a moral compass, a living bridge between worlds, peoples, and philosophies. The Prophet's plan unfolds, decades after Sisko first stepped aboard Deep Space Nine. Star Trek's continuity and narrative hindsight allow us to see the full scope of his purpose. By the time of Star Trek, Picard, and other post-DS9 expansions of the universe, the consequences of Sisko's role become even more apparent. The peace and stability of Bajor, the balance of power in the Alpha and Gamma quadrants, and even the spiritual health of countless individuals in the Federation trace back to his interventions. It's tempting to view Sisko's story purely through the lens of Starfleet protocol or political maneuvering, but such an interpretation misses the point. The Prophets designed a long game, one that required a human capable of empathy, courage, and adaptability. Sisko was chosen not because he was the best captain, not because he had the right rank or training, but because he embodied qualities that allowed him to interact meaningfully with both the divine and the mortal realms. In short, the universe needed someone who could act as a translator between the temporal and the eternal, and Sisko rose to that challenge. The personal dimension. Perhaps the most profound aspect of Sisko's role is how it intersects with his personal life. As a widower and single father, Sisko's love for his son, Jake, grounded him in humanity even as he fulfilled cosmic duties. His personal relationships with Kira, Odo, Jagia, and the crew at large show that being an emissary does not mean detachment from the human experience. On the contrary, it is through these relationships that Sisko learns, grows, and even mediates the will of the Prophets in ways that are humane, ethical, and profoundly affecting. This tension between the cosmic and the personal is what makes Sisko's story resonate decades after it first aired. It is a reminder that greatness in the Star Trek universe is not about domination or exploration alone, but about integration. The ability to unite disparate worlds, philosophies, and beings in a common purpose. Sisko's greatness lies in his ability to harmonize the extraordinary and the ordinary, the divine and the mundane, without losing himself in the process. Revisiting Sisko through a modern lens,